I have with me David Byrd. Byrd, along with his brother Jonathan Jr. and mother Guinea, operate Jonathan Byrd's Racing, who currently competes in USAC with 2017 USAC Sprint Car champion Chris Windham and Kevin Thomas Jr. The Byrd family will also be partnering with Bilardi Auto Racing to field a car for Windham at the Freedom 100 and with AJ Foyt Enterprises to run a car for James Davison at the Indianapolis 500. Your family has been involved in racing for a long time now. What was it like growing up around the sport?
It was fun. I think that it made it to where it got in the blood, of course. So even when everything is telling you to take a hiatus or maybe back away from it and focus on other things, you can't. So from basically 1982 all the way through probably 87, 88, I was every Friday, Saturday, sometimes Thursday nights at the racetrack, primarily at the Indianapolis Speedrome, where we got our start back in 1982, and then we started adding the Thursday Night Thunder races on ESPN at the Speedrome and at Raceway Park in Indianapolis, and then on to Indy in '85. So it was a formative part of my childhood, and a lot of fun memories of going to the racetrack, time spent on the road, traveling on the USAC circuit, going out east, going out west, and third generation now with this. So because my grandmother was a stock car owner in the '60s, and then Dad got involved in the early '80s, and then carried right on with me and my brother, and now really my mom as well now. So it's I think it's part of the growing up in central Indiana as well, and so it's just part of the experience of being a Hoosier, I think. So wouldn't trade it for anything, and it's also made it to where my life really revolves around the Indy 500. My schedule, my calendar, business dealings, business development. So much of it is Indy 500 based, and wouldn't have it any other way. And that's why the passion for that race is there, and why the desire to win it is there. But also, the short track stuff. So we're still involved in short track racing, sprint cars, midgets, silver crown cars, with a couple of drivers, Chris Windham and Kevin Thomas Jr. So really runs the gamut, and really it's all based around Indy, and it's all because I grew up with it.
Certainly is admirable that your family had such a passion for it and they've been able to make a go of it and, in my opinion, have plenty of success during that time.
It's been a mixed bag. We certainly had success right away in the short tracks, and with championships at the speedrome and late models and midgets, and then national midget success in the '80s with Rich Vogler. We've scored a couple of wins in the IndyCar series. It's been a long time. '96 and with Arie Luyendyk in Phoenix, and 1998 with John Paul Jr. at Texas. But there's been some other high points, some unique things we've been able to do. Set the track record at Indy in '96 with Arie was a pretty big one. Doing the double with Johnny Andretti for the first time back in 1994 was kind of a high point, but we've gotten close. We finished fifth with Buddy Lazier at Indy. That's really been our most successful run there, both starting ninth and finishing fifth, and really having a shot to win. I think that's all you can really hope for when you go to Indy, is having a chance to be competitive, and we really feel like that's going to happen this year. I think all the pieces are coming together appropriately, even though it's kind of late. So had our fair share of success, won races at multiple levels, and hope to continue doing that for a long time.
All right, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. Okay, what do you consider to be your family's top moment in racing?
Wow. I would say there's a few. The midget championships with USAC, the USAC circuit with Rich Vogler, two car owners championships were pretty special. Back in '86 and '87. I can't claim one. I'll just name a few. The first time we qualified for the Indy 500 in 1985 with Rich Vogler. This is our 33rd anniversary of that. Really executing the double was big with Johnny Andretti. Dyke was obviously huge. Running three cars in the 591 was a big deal with Buddy Lazier, with Stan Fox, Gordon Johncock, and Buddy Lazier. And then, leading laps at Indy in 2016 with Brian Clausen was pretty special to do after so many years of that being the first time that ever happened, and then later on winning winning the race that night at Kokomo Speedway in the sprint car with Brian. That was special. It's uh, winning at Phoenix with Art Dyke, winning at Texas with John Paul Jr. John was such a special driver and a special guy, and with so much that had gone on in his life and career, and to go, from having such promise and brilliance as a rookie in 1983 in the IndyCar Series and winning the Michigan 500, and then having his troubles, and then 15 years later finally going to victory lane at Texas in the IndyCar and being part of that was pretty special. So, but really being able to do it all as a family has been special as well. Honoring our father as we can with the legacy of Jonathan Byrd's Racing and our brand, and doing it in a way that's honorable, and hopefully in a way that preserves the reputation he built. And even if we don't have the greatest day on the racetrack, that we always do it by earning people's respect, and showing that we do things the right way. I think just all of it together is it's been a interesting up and down ride with highlights and certainly lowlights, but I just can't pinpoint one particular highlight. It's been good. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah. Now, also, who do you consider to be the best, or at least your favorite driver to drive for your family? And I realize there could be several of them.
Yeah. There's each driver that we've had. I would say there's some that have been less memorable than others. Drivers who win races for you obviously are top of the charts. Unfortunately, John Paul Jr. never got to race for us at Indy. I think if he had, he'd have shown really well. But Rich Vogler, we won so many races with him in midgets, really all around the country, and it was just almost a dominant situation where every time we went to the track with Rich, it was expected he was going to win. So lots of races on ESPN on Thursday Night Thunder with a lot of those. So that was 6 years, almost 7 years with Vogler from the time we started with him to when he passed. So that's our longest record. So I would say that's probably the my favorite driver that stands out overall. But I was also young, so I was 7 years old when my dad linked up with Rich Vogler. So of course, when you're 7 and that's the guy that's in your driving your dad's race car, he's an idol, right? He's a hero, he's a god, and they can do no wrong, and he's the only driver that matters. You learn to appreciate other aspects of other drivers as the years go, when you realize what it is that they bring to the table that's somewhat different. I'm really excited about what we're going to do with James Davison this year. I see James as an amalgamation of 3 drivers that we've had in the past. That being Arie Luyendyk, Scott Brayton, and Buddy Lazier. Arie just had an absolute feel for the speedway, and I think James does as well. And Scott Brayton was fearless. He just wanted to be the absolute fastest guy in the speedway, and he's completely confident in his own abilities to do what he's to get the most out of the car. And that's what I think James can do that as well. And then Buddy Lazier has always been known as the aggressive driver. Just super aggressive, gets the absolute most out of the car, no matter what's there. And really in his prime, he just did that. He was a bulldog. So I think James is like that as well, very aggressive, and can take what's given to him and make something good happen with it. Obviously, Brian Clausen was, we invested a lot in Brian. We did, obviously Indy within the short track stuff with him as well, and we had, since Vogler, we hadn't done that with anybody. So that was kind of a special relationship as well, and obviously it was unfortunately cut short.
Yeah.
But with lots of Stan Fox, was an interesting character, and Johnny Andretti, when you get to link up with the Andrettis, that's always great. Arie was just a smooth, just a very laid back guy to be around. I don't want to slight anybody by saying one in particular is my absolute favorite, but because a lot of honestly so many have unfortunately passed. It's an interesting thing. Rich Vogler, Stan Fox, Scott Brayton, Brian Clausen, drivers that we had history with have all are no longer with us. So Buddy was here, he called himself with the third Byrd brother, with me and my brother. It's kind of how he referred to himself for 2005 when we drove a few races for us. So it's it may sound like I'm trying to be politically correct or sidestepping the answer, but I think Vogler's at the top, and then there's a few others that are just right under Vogler, and but I'm also right now big fans of Chris Wyndham and Kevin Thomas Jr. We're supporting them, bringing Chris to Indy in the Indy Lights car, and hopefully if Kevin can have a great season in USAC and the short tracks this year, we can try to do the same thing with them. And I'm big fans of those guys and hope they do well. But there's something different, programs my dad put together. So there's a certain way to look at those drivers, and there's programs that my brother and I put together. So I look at those drivers differently as well, because we're just it's second, really third generation here, and James is a third generation racer as well. So there's a unique thing, a unique connection there. We're partnering with Foyt team, and I'm really working pretty close with Larry Foyt, who's third generation. So it's all. I think it'll be each driver special in their own way, and I repeat myself as I keep going. So I'll just say Rich Vogler is the top of the list because he was my childhood racing idol, and everything else falls under that.
Yeah, Rich Vogler. He was a favorite of my father, and also his father, meaning my grandfather. And he was definitely a very talented driver.
Yeah, one of the best ever.
Mm-hmm. I know my dad was saying that that last year at the job he works at, that he works with a person named whose last name was Vogler, or is Vogler, and apparently this person was a distant relative of Rich Vogler's. Like I think it was said that like kind of Rich Vogler's part of the family stayed in one area, like in Indiana, and then this person's family, I think, said they came mostly from Illinois. I believe that's how it was.
Oh, Rich was born in Illinois, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where he's buried as well. So I would imagine there's not a whole lot of Vogler families, so I could imagine it being one family that's all the same.
Yeah. Alright then. Well, in 1996, Arie Luyendyk set the all-time qualifying record for Indianapolis 500 qualifying in a car your family sponsored, but it was not without obstacles. Excuse me?
Oh, it was my dad's team, so.
It's, owned, pardon me.
Yep.
But either way, it wasn't without obstacles, as the car had mechanical problems in the pole day warm-up. It barely avoided a crash, Johnny Parsons. And also, the original qualifying speed was disqualified. What was it like going through all that, knowing you had such a fast car, but you just had so many obstacles, so many things blocking you?
It ended up being a good thing that all the stuff happened. It was interesting because we had the Fast Friday car where Arie ran the setup of the car at 2:39, but that actually wasn't the car he was planning on. We were planning on having him qualify because that was a '94 Raynard, and our engineer Tim Wardrop, he could transfer the setups pretty easily between the two cars. They were practically identical, so he ran Fast Friday in the '94 Raynard, and then we were going to qualify the '95 Raynard. The next on pole day. So, on the morning warm up was when Johnny Parsons crashed. We actually didn't quite avoid the crash because Arie caught one of the tires that was coming off Parsons' car, and it got into Arie's, I believe, right rear, and caused the problem. So we actually had to switch cars, and we had to put an engine in the other car. So Arie was pretty happy about that because he wanted to qualify the '94 Raynard that he'd run in Fast Friday and set the all-time unofficial record lap. So we got that car out on the pit lane and ended up having, if I'm remembering all this correctly, a little bit of an issue with the engine on pit lane. So we finally got him out there. He qualified, and then he qualified the car that he wanted to qualify, which was the '94 chassis. And that was the one that, after the run, was 7 pounds light. Qualified on the pole, and then Scott Braden pulled his qualified car and went out to run again and knocked Ari back to second, and the car was disqualified. It was found to be 7 pounds light, and that's what set up. So once that car was disqualified, then we had to go back to the car that Tim Wardrop, the engineer, and my father wanted to already qualify all along, which was the '95 model Raynard, and ended up qualifying that one the next day, which was Mother's Day. I didn't actually get to be at that track because I had to work that day at our. We would do a big Mother's Day buffet at our banquet hall there at the Jonathan Bird's Cafeteria in Greenwood, Indiana. So that's one of our busy days. So I had to work. So I didn't get to be at the track that day, but got to hear about it from people who were listening to it on the radio while waiting for their tables, and they told me about it that he set a record. So had we not had all those problems, ultimately probably wouldn't have qualified. Probably would not have set the track record. We would have, if the car had been disqualified, we would have been perfectly content with a second place start instead of setting the track record. But in all honesty, if he'd started second instead of starting 20th, probably would have ran away and hid from the field that day and probably won the race. So we'd have a win under our belts and not the all-time track record. So a bit of a mixed bag there, I suppose. It's yes, winning is forever and legendary at Indy, and we would have had that win under our belts, and probably would have changed our racing fortunes going forward. But win happens once, right? And the track record is going to be probably going to stand forever. So I would think I can't see them ever getting up to those speeds ever again. I mean, maybe 232, 233, and that seems to be about the limit of it these days. So interesting time, and of course the cars changed after that, and they were hitting those cars were hitting 250 on the straightaways, and just don't see that again either. But good memories, and really was very happy. For my father was very happy about the whole situation, and it turned out because we knew we had a car that could set on the pole and set the quick time, and we just didn't have the opportunity to go out and try to knock Brayton off the pole again. Primarily because we didn't have the car ready to go at that point in time, on pole day, and that makes me miss that format a little bit for the way you qualified. It was once that car took the checkered flag, it was locked in. If it got bumped, that car was done, and it really created an extra pressure cooker situation that doesn't exist anymore. It's just a different type of pressure now. But it was good, and it's something. When that car is on display at the museum, very proud of it. When I see it at the airport in Indianapolis, for a year or so, I was at the airport. I always stopped and just had a chance to think back to the memories and remember my dad, and I don't think that car would be if it won the race in '96. It may not be in the museum. It may not be as historical of a piece as it is now, but everything occurs for a reason, and whatever the reason is for that one, it's part of the Indy 500 history, and I'm proud of that.
Yes. Yep. Now, shifting over to USAC, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, ESPN broadcasted USAC races through the programs Thursday Night Thunder and Saturday Night Thunder. Now, do you think USAC could gain in popularity if something was done today, in the sense that of any channel, like basically showing races on television?
Of course, I mean, just imagine. I mean, that was live too. It was amazing that would happen. Obviously, an ESPN is not going to do that today. It'd be great to see an NBC Sports Network can certainly do it. NAV TV, I think, obviously has carved a niche out in the kind of short track racing, and they can certainly do it. It's just a matter of money, of course, and
sure.
The challenge there is that Lucas actually sponsors the Power Eye series and ASCS series, so they're not going to put a rival series on their network unless they're paying top dollar for it. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. I mean, drivers today they're just as the cars look great. It's great, great sponsors, great racing. Dirt track racing is a little tougher to cover just because of the dust. It seems like, but all there's production capacity out there. I mean, you see Speed Shift and Dirt Vision and Loud Pedal, all those groups that also what's the A couple other ones that are escaping me right now that cover dirt track racing on a pay-per-view basis and do a really great job at it. Uh, so I think it's just be a matter of a television network that's looking for content that's already kind of turnkey and well produced and has a following that could be picked up and put over the air, uh, and it would do wonders for the sport's popularity. I think that not only did it do great for USAC racing, I think it help put ESPN on the radar screen in some ways. I mean, 86, 87, 88, when they started doing those, or maybe 87 when they started doing those, I think it gave ESPN some content as well to fill some airtime that they weren't otherwise going to have. And it would allow fans to connect to drivers that race week in and week out, who are just extremely talented and who just have a massive amount of skill, but they're just never going to have the chance to race on the big stage, to race on Sunday, as they say, for one reason or another, generally funding. So I think it'd be great. It would just more racing the better. The more racing that's visible, the better. And the more things they can do to make these short track guys into Thursday night or Saturday night heroes, so much the better. It'll be better for the health of racing, better for the health of short track racing. I think the short track racing, I think is undergoing a bit of a renaissance right now with some really great tracks and some really solid car counts, great competitors, long time drivers who are racing against up and coming new guys and new teams, new series. Uh, Lots of options for racing, and I see short track racing having a bit of a good run right now. There's been some tracks that have gone under, and some of that's because of challenges with the promoters, and some of it's with populations kind of moving away or getting older, or some of it's just because the population moved too close to the short track, and the real estate became too valuable to be a racetrack. It became something else. Like the famous Manzanita Speedway here in Phoenix, Arizona. It went away about 15 years ago because the land was too valuable to keep being a racetrack. So, kind of like I think IndyCar feels like it's on an upward trajectory right now. I see the same thing happening in some short track racing, and I think USAC could as the really along with the World of Outlaws, it's kind of the biggest mover and shaker in that with some proper funding and sponsorship and the right focus could really benefit from some kind of national television presence, whether it's live events or prepackaged stuff, but it needs to run at the appropriate time and have the right promotion behind it.
Yeah, I know one other example of dirt track racing being on TV. I know World of Outlaws is shown on CBS Sports Network. I don't believe it's live though. In fact, I think it might even be months after the fact.
Yeah, I think they showed the world finals from last year was on CBS Sports Network. I think that was, but it was after the fact. It was not live. But yeah, it's just that's all a matter of just somebody willing to buy the time and put it on, and it takes a lot less than what people would imagine. I think. You know, it's just whether or not somebody's willing to commit to it. Finding the right backer. I think so many racing series are in tracks and sanctioning bodies are benefiting right now from Lucas Oil doing a lot for short track racing. And I think if Lucas was to go away, there would be some series that would be suffer some cutbacks. But I think Mavs TV is doing a great job of bringing some of that to the television. It's always prepackaged. It's never live. The Chili Bowl is live. Everything else is run on tape delay, and sometimes they run the same thing over and over again, which I wonder about. But it's their prerogative, their network. But anything to get eyeballs on that type of racing, then maybe it can encourage somebody to go out to the track, and then encourage somebody to get involved, and it just perpetuates the cycle.
I want to thank you for joining me, and I wish you and your team the best of luck in USAC, the Freedom 100, and the Indianapolis 500.